Rejection.
All right. Welcome to another curated podcast. I'm not sure which number we're calling this because maybe this can be a little spin-off, just Zach and Steve kind of deal. But yeah, welcome to number ...
Insert number here.
Yes. Of the podcast. Yeah, just us today. We're going to talk about some things.
Big week in motorsports last weekend.
Yes.
A little race happened over in France that you might have heard of before. Are you a Le Mans guy? Do you really French up when you say it? Or do you go Le Mans?
I do in between. I do Le Mans.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You can always say there's a spectrum. It's like the Porsche thing.
Yeah, but then in the actual French, don't they call it Dumont?
Dumont, yeah.
Yeah. So
can't win either way.
Yeah, it's
so Le Mans happened last weekend. It was an important one because it was the 100th running of the race. Actually, I take that back. It was the 100th annual, or the 100th birthday, I guess, of the race. It wasn't the 100th running. Yes. There was a couple of years that took off for some conflicts that happened in the 40s.
Yeah, either way, it's branded 100 years.
Yeah, 100 years. So, obviously, if you don't know, you probably do because you're watching this podcast, but Le Mans, of course, is regarded to be the pinnacle of motorsport. It is a part of the trifecta, if you will, the big three of motorsport, which, of course, is Monaco, Le Mans, and the Indy 500, the Triple Crown. And it's a 24-hour endurance race. So, back in the day, as the kids say, it was literally run straight 24 hours, sometimes with one driver, which is crazy. But most of the times they had two or three.
That's nuts. Yeah.
Absolutely nuts. And it was famous for the Le Mans start, which everyone would start on one side of the starting line, run to your cars.
I wish they still did that. Obviously, there's tons of safety over those guys getting run over.
Yeah, there was, I think it was 69 or 70, I think was one of the last times they did it, 71.
Oh, wow.
So fairly recently.
Yeah, that's actually...
And it's because someone died. The guy tried to take an advantage by not putting a seatbelt fully on. He's going down the straight, trying to put a seatbelt on, lost control of the car, crashed, and I believe he died. I think that was late 60s, early 70s. So.
Oh, wow, yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah, so they don't do that anymore. The car, obviously, it's a normal grid start or a rolling start like most races now. Fun fact, too, that's why Porsche's ignition is on the left-hand side of their cars.
Was because of the Le Mans.
Because you can get in, put start the car while you're doing your seatbelt. So a tradition they keep to this day. And we'll talk more about Porsche later in the episode, too, because they just also had a very important birthday. They just turned 75 years old.
Yeah, we'll take a look at their
they had some
thing.
Some announcements they had talked, which we're actually really excited about. So, but yeah, Le Mans. The other reason it was really big.
I just want to say, before we get into the more important things about it, it's so cool that they had LeBron as
That's pretty cool,
the flag bearer there. I mean, it just kind of shows you how motorsports is kind of making that jump into mainstream when you're getting, F1's been doing it, but I think this is one of the biggest celebrities to do it for an IMSA or, the
World Endurance Championship.
Yeah, less popular kind of things.
Right. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think between F1's kind of huge resurgence in the U.S. In the last couple of years, things like Drive to Survive and all that stuff, motorsport's becoming a lot more synonymous. You can go to a restaurant and they have Le Mans on, or they have IMSA races on now, which never was the case before, which is crazy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't ever, super into it before, and I was younger, so I wasn't, into it, but I'd imagine you'd have to really dig.
Oh, yeah, you were on, ESPN 9 to find the race, something like that, the Ocho.
The Ocho.
So having it on ESPN, even F1 races now, on a Sunday morning or afternoon, whatever, it's on ESPN, which is super cool. We'd love to see that.
Yeah.
The race itself was a crazy race. I admittedly watched far too many hours of the 24 hours. I stayed up far too late watching it.
Over the majority of the hours were watched? Or?
Oh, yeah. No, I probably put in about 16 to 18 hours of the 24 hours.
Oh, wow. Good for you.
Which was impressive. Because it was a great race. It really was. A lot of times these endurance races, I also watched the 24 Hours of Daytona earlier this year, which was good. You don't have quite the same dramatic
It's not the same track, it seems.
Yeah,
it's not...
I mean, it's a great track, but it doesn't have the prestige or the history. It's Daytona. It's still super famous, of course, but Le Mans is the track, right? And the great thing about where it is in France is almost every year, this time of year, rain is some huge element of it, which obviously makes any type of motorsport interesting. It changes strategies.
Even Monaco this year was interesting because of the rain.
Got the rain,
which historically is never interesting.
Yeah, it's usually a very boring race. But The big news with this was new classes, new competitive classes for the WEC this year, the World Endurance Championship. We see the return of the real competitive hypercar class. If you follow this, you know that Toyota has kind of been dominant the last 8 years across the board, really because not for lack of them building a good car, but for lack of any real competition. There was, Porsche's had entries. The most recent Porsche entry was the 919 Hybrid back in 2017, 16, 15, somewhere around there, which is a very dominant car. That was the last time Porsche won, who of course are the record holder for most wins at Le Mans. They have 19.
Is that right? Yeah.
They're the most winning brand there. Probably the biggest news was Ferrari coming back after 50 years. And having a competitive car in the last 50 years, which is great.
When you think Ferrari in motorsports, you think complete dominance, but it's been 50 years.
Yeah. So they brought their new, I forget the name of the car. It's like the 138P or the P138 or something like that. Yeah. But I will say the new hypercar class, we've been super excited about watching all the teasers and trailers and the cars coming out. They're obviously all hybrids, so they still have battery power. But every manufacturer, so we have Ferrari, Porsche, Cadillac is back, Glickenhaus, and Toyota, of course. They're unbelievably cool looking cars. I feel like there was this kind of stale period where the hypercar class, they all kind of looked like LMP2 cars, which is kind of like a, not a watered down class, but they all look the same.
It looks more like a, I don't know.
It's
like
a spec
toy
car.
Yeah.
These are just really, really good looking hypercars.
Definitely.
Ferrari, of course, did really well at Daytona. They've been doing great at all the other spec races in between. But to see them come to, and spoiler if you haven't watched or seen the results, but Ferrari,
it's been long enough now.
It's been a week. Yeah. Ferrari, of course, wins first overall, first in class, which is a massive achievement just to finish the race and a 24-hour endurance race, of course. And they did a fantastic job. The car ran great the whole race. Battled a couple, crashes and bumps as you do in a race like this.
Yeah.
But
well, Toyota hit a squirrel, right?
Yeah,
or else
took
it
him
could
in
have
the
been
race.
a different result.
I mean, they were literally down to the final couple hours. They were leading the pack. The crazy thing about this new class too is when you deal with a 24-hour race, you have usually by halfway through the race, you have cars that are very rarely on the lead lap together. So, barring a major catastrophic incident or something like that, the competition kind of falls away a little bit.
Right.
But as we saw at Daytona earlier in the year and we saw here, we have 5 or 6 cars on the lead lap. I think the second place Toyota finished within 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Which is insane after
close.
24 hours.
Yeah.
And that's how many, that's 260 some odd laps of a 9-minute long race course, or 9-mile long race course. And it's very pit stop strategies, changing tires, refueling, all that stuff. So it's crazy to come down.
Speaking of strategy, it seems like the hypercar Le Mans cars here for Ferrari seem to have their strategy down a little bit better than Ferrari.
I did see a lot of tweets and texts about
the memes.
Charles Leclerc was there, of course, at the race, and all the memes where he was poaching their sponsor. He was like, "Can you guys come work for us next week?
Right.
We're in Montreal." So it was a great race. Do you have a favorite of the new hypercars?
So this is going purely off of that one video that went viral, and it's the starts. So the electric, and then they bump on. I have to say, Cadillacs just sounded evil. It was amazing. I'll throw a clip in of that, but yeah. So I'm not following as well as you are. I'm definitely into it now. I just did Motor Trend's $5 a month, so I'm definitely going to be using it. But just based off that video, man, the Cadillac is just cool. And it's black. It's
it's a mean car.
looking.
Yeah, no, it's the Cadillac, and it's a real competitor too. I mean, it's showing really good pace with the cars. But those pit starts, man. That was some of the first videos to come out of testing.
I'm just getting chills thinking about it.
It sounds so good.
Cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. It's the surprising caveat of the hybrid era.
Yeah, you're
none of us thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
This is actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
The Ferrari looks fantastic.
Yeah,
obviously, it's got pace. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
I'm definitely a 963. I'm a big Porsche guy, of course, so I always root for Porsche.
Fair.
The 963 looks pretty good. Doesn't quite have the same pace.
Is that? Oh no, I think that was Toyota.
Yeah. The 963. There's 2 factory works teams, and then there's 1 or 2 privateers. And one of those is the Hota or Jota Hertz team.
Oh, yeah.
Which
Jota,
is also sponsored by Singer Vehicle Design.
Oh, that's
so seeing
right.
the giant Singer logo down the tail fin of that car and it's gold, black wheels. It looks super awesome.
Look that up.
I was really shooting. And that car was leading the race for a pretty good chunk of time, and unfortunately got into I think they got into essentially a race-ending accident on the driver. He did like a 2-hour stint, and on his end lap to go into the pits, crashed the car in a little bit of rain and took him out of the race. That's always
rain.
The great equalizer, right? That's why I love rain in motorsports. But yeah, no, the new endurance class or the new hypercar class, very cool stuff. It seems like it's really competitive. Of course, that's not the only class that ran or runs in the WEC. I'm a huge GTE, GT3, Group 3, whatever you want to call it.
More my speed as well.
Things that look like actual road cars is definitely my thing. It's interesting to see that a lot of the Porsches some are the new 992 GT3 Cup car. Some of the privateers, because obviously the costs, are still running the previous gen, which are still pretty competitive. Ferrari's got cars out there too, so it's really cool to see. That's a bad wreck.
Yeah, we're just watching the highlights here as we're talking. But that lizard-looking one with the teeth, is that private?
It's a privateer.
Yeah, that's cool. They did the right thing
to
just do some crazy livery.
Well, I guess the story with that is the owner of the team, I think it is, and I forget. I think it's ALO Motorsport. Forgive me if I can't remember who it is exactly, but. The owner's daughter wanted to see a T-Rex on the car.
No,
she's probably like 4 years old or something.
That's awesome.
So they made the livery of the giant. And if you look
she's
on the
like
doors,
24.
Yeah, it's like 36 years old. It's got little T-Rex arms on the doors too.
Oh,
which is
no
super
way.
cute. Yeah, and the whole race, they had a giant inflatable person in a inflatable T-Rex costume going around. It was really funny. Yeah.
That's awesome because that'll give them kind of that earned media. It'll give them no matter where they finish, it just becomes more popular, and then. That'll bring, branding deals, stuff like that.
Exactly.
More money, and
you get a lot
based
of
off
photos
that one
taken
decision, you could become a really good team because you get the funding.
And I would like to see more. I know obviously some brands, the privateers can do more because they're not
restricted
to something. But I would like to see more teams do that with their cars. I mean, especially when you have a grid of like 50 some odd cars.
Yeah.
Some of them start to kind of look alike. Speaking of the car that really stands out from the grid. Iron Dames is a race team that's also running a 911. That's an all-woman team. That the car is all chrome pink. It stands out in a crowd, and I actually did some door-to-door racing with Rexy, which is really cool.
I don't know if I noticed that one.
Yeah, it's like a chrome metallic pink 911R, which is cool. And another vehicle that really stands out from the crowd, especially this race, was the entry of a NASCAR in Le Mans.
Oh, this is right. Did you see this picture? I can look it up. I'll probably just put it on the screen, but it was the Camaro, and it was so much higher up than all the other cars, and so it was like a nice horizontal horizon shot, and it was just that much bigger.
Yeah,
and it
massive.
really puts it in perspective of everything. But I don't know. What do you think about NASCAR? And
I mean, so I grew up watching NASCAR, and not really a fan of it. I always thought it was like I liked the single seat, like the F1 cars and Indy more, the open wheel stuff. I had family members who were really big into NASCAR, so it was always on Sundays and stuff. So I knew all the drivers and stuff. But I think they're trying to reach a new demographic. They're trying to reach a younger group. They're trying to embrace this big push with motorsport right now. So I get it. The fact that NASCAR ran an actual Camaro ZL1, it was in its own class. It was a specialty class they reserve at all these races to bring out some historic cars, some interesting thing. Really for the fans, it's obviously not competing with anybody. But the best was seeing that thing drive and how big it was. It was passing LMP2 cars, which are
wild.
They're small cars, but the Camaro is just so much bigger. It looks photoshopped. Actually.
It looks crazy because you put all the LMP cars, the GT cars, they're all typically similar sizes, and even in photos of like street cars, like a Street 488, they look big just because the proportions are it's so well designed. Yeah. But then you see it in person, you're like, this is tiny.
Oh yeah.
R8's not much bigger than a TT.
Yeah, exactly.
But in the pictures and everything, and when they're all the similar size on the track, that it's like, oh, these are bigger cars, but then you see the Camaro, and it's that's an actual sized car.
That's a big guy. Yeah. Like we have an LMP car here at the museum, and it's it's back when they were actually even bigger than they are.
Well,
now,
that is pretty big.
It's pretty big, but
comes up to like waist level.
They're tiny.
It's insane.
So I love seeing it. There's tons of clips of it, with Freebird playing in the background, and just going down the straight at 200 some odd miles an hour. Just
Freebird.
Everyone kept saying like you could always tell you could always tell when the Camaro was going by because it was just so much louder.
Yeah, that too.
It was cool to see them being open-minded and bringing it in. Obviously, it brings in some different fans, and I think people are excited to see it. Is it the best representation of American racing? I don't know. We can't really send an Indy card. So what else would you really send? But
it's tough to think about American racing because it really was just old muscle cars.
Yeah, exactly. And it's great to see that Cadillac, GM in general, is really embracing it. To see GM bring Cadillac there with a really competitive car. Yeah. Chevy Racing is there with the C8R, which is doing really well in its class.
Yeah, it is.
Corvette Racing has always done really well in that GT3, GTE class. I do miss seeing Ford there. It would be really cool to see Ford, whatever the next GT is, if they do one. I doubt it because it probably has to be all electric. But
I wonder what they're doing as far as that goes, because they're now getting involved with F1.
Yeah,
with
engine
Red Bull.
supplier. Yep.
Yeah, so I'd imagine they would, kind of dip into it. And
Of
it's not
course.
like they don't. They have the most heritage out of most of these things for Le Mans.
Especially at these races, I mean, they're just up there with Ferrari, obviously, the great battles with the original GT and Ferrari and Enzo back then in the days. But it'd be interesting to see what they do because we're seeing...
There's the final version coming out,
of the GT, yep. Yeah. But they decided not to go racing with it this year.
There's no racing. Okay.
Not at least in the Hypercar class. Which is too bad because it was a competitive car. It looks great. It's fun to see it out there.
You and I know more than others how awesome that car is.
Yeah, we have a lot of seat time in it before GT, and it's just a spectacular vehicle.
I can't even talk about it. How much I love it. Yeah.
But now that we're seeing this, and the cool thing with the Hypercar class is when you see a manufacturer get involved in it, the only way they can justify it is by using the tech they find there to trickle down to the road cars, right? That's motorsport 101. Like no one could afford to just go racing. It costs tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to do.
And even on the low end, it's like you're minimum are spending tens of thousands of dollars as an amateur. Yeah.
So when you see Ferrari enter the fray, and you see Porsche enter with a new car,
and that's just
that's
a different level.
Yeah. You're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on these cars. That it kind of alludes to that we're going to see another round of hypercars coming through.
Right.
Because Porsche's been noticeably quiet for, they had a streak going where the 959 came out, which is considered the first supercar. Right. Then 10 years later, to the day almost, they had the Carrera GT, considered the best. That was like the peak analog supercar, right?
Good stuff.
10 years later to the day, 918 Spider, which was kind of co-developed along and was trickled down from the 919 Hypercar, protecting that. And then now we see Porsche with the 963, and conveniently, like we mentioned earlier, it was Porsche's birthday a couple weeks ago, 75th anniversary, and they used it to announce the next Hypercar, which is really exciting. So
this is what we're looking at here.
It is
up on the screen.
Yeah, it is. So it's called the Mission X. As I said, every of those installments that Porsche's done with their hypercars, or supercars, if you will, has kind of been like, this is the best we can do with this format. The 959 was an adaptive all-wheel drive solution that they never did before with adjustable suspension and the flat six. Then they went to the V10, naturally aspirated supercar, and they had the hybrid. Like, this is the best hybrid we can make.
What's in the 918?
918 is a V8 with the
electric, right? Yeah.
So this is the best hybrid package we could possibly make. So it made sense. I think we all kind of had our fingers crossed that we would see one more combustion engine in a Porsche hypercar. But it's all electric. Now, details are pretty scarce with it so far. They said it's just a concept at this time. Porsche doesn't go through all this effort not to make the car. They're going to make the car. Probably not for a couple more years, but it looks fantastic. I think you can see a lot of the design cues from the 963, like those headlights turn sideways, same exact headlights. I know they're shooting to be the fastest car at the Nürburgring.
Yeah,
right?
Who took that? It was the Model S, right?
For Plaid? Electric, the Plaid currently, I think. No, the Rimac has the fastest
Rimac?
now, I think.
Because, when you think and James May is, well, if he was dead, he'd be rolling in his grave. But whatever the relevant term is for that, he hates the term or the title of fastest Nürburgring line. But when you think of that, you think of Porsche with the GT3s and all that.
Yeah.
So I don't know who's had it in recent years, but yeah.
So right now, as of filming, the Mercedes AMG 1 has the current streetcar record.
Streetcar, yeah.
Which is kind of in the same ballpark as this Mission X car. It's a hypercar in the sense that it's the top tier car. Mm-hmm. That, of course, is a combustion engine. It's Lewis Hamilton's 2015 F1 engine.
Yeah, right.
Which is crazy. And that car's super cool. It's actually being delivered to customers now. So, a couple of years ago, or 10 years ago now, we had the Holy Trinity, right? Mm-hmm. That was the LaFerrari, the P1, and the 918. That was like all three of the big manufacturers releasing within about a year of each other their best hybrid hypercar they could make. Mm-hmm. I think we were all kind of hoping that there was some back room meeting somewhere in like the Alps or something where these guys all came together and plotted to do it all again because they got so much free marketing out of each other. And it's like this fake little competition.
Right. It's like rapper beef.
Exactly. Exactly. It sells records at the end of the day. Right. So we were I think kind of hoping that this would happen again, and we have two of the three announced. So we have the Porsche. Ferrari also took the wraps off its new hypercar. Yeah. Those details are just kind of trickling in now. It was a private event. I think there's photos out now of it, though. But that's, so now we're just waiting for McLaren. And McLaren's been on this weird slide of a couple of years where they just kind of keep recycling. That's what it's the 499p, the hypercar. Yeah. So apparently Ferrari's very close to taking the official covers off of their hypercar.
I remember seeing photos of it with the camo.
Yep. Yeah, apparently there's...
here it is.
Yep. Yeah, it looks pretty sick.
That's wild. Here's the thing.
Is it bad that I think it looks like a Z06 Corvette from certain angles?
Oh, man.
I hate that. I hate that.
That's Chevy's fault.
Yeah, Chevy. I mean,
they admittedly copied. Yeah. Good for them, though.
Yeah, I mean, the car's selling, so it can't be that bad. But
here's my thing with that and what you were talking about with McLaren. Did they come out early with the Senna? Or is that because it's not all electric?
Right.
But neither is, I don't think the Ferrari's
the Ferrari definitely, no. And that's the thing, too. Porsche's kind of weird to me because they're embracing the electric thing. They're showing that they can do this really well, but they're also buying refineries in South America to turn biofuel production. So they're trying to play both sides.
It's weird to see the company that's trying to figure out the fuel. I guess they're just playing the field.
They have to do both.
Yeah. But to come out just fully electric.
Yeah, and I think Porsche's statement on it was, we get that future cars will be electric, but we also want a sustainable thing for cars that are still on the road now, because obviously these cars are still going to exist for 50, 60, 70 years, the ones that are on the road now. So I think they're trying to find a sustainable way to do it, but I want one more combustion engine Porsche.
I know.
So McLaren is... Apparently there is a car that's been announced internally to customers. Oh. It has a code name and everything. All your big influencers, the Schmies and the DDEs and all those guys.
And the DDEs.
And what's the guy? That's Stephen Hamilton. I think he mentioned it once too on one of his videos that they're testing the waters, if you will, on.
I feel like they make so much freaking money with all the other models they come out with.
You would hope. I mean, McLaren's this company that they put on a good face. Their F1 team is flailing right now. That's not really their fault.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, now it's a different world where what's the saying? You win on Sunday, sell on Monday. Yeah. I feel like that's not so much of a thing anymore.
It's not. Yeah. I mean, so people are so diehard, like McLaren fans. They're going to buy the car regardless. Yeah. So that's the one that I heard. Is that the Solus or whatever it's called?
Yeah. Oh man, that looks insane.
That looks pretty sick. But essentially, it's a Senna with a body kit. And that's the problem with McLaren, and I think a lot of their customers, or potential customers, feel that is pretty good looking.
Yeah,
it's pretty sick, actually. I think that's their biggest issue is they keep coming out with these special editions one after another. They're doing what Lambo and Ferrari have done. Really, Lambo has done for the last couple of years.
Is McLaren going to get knocked out then? Because then we have the F1 or the Mercedes AMG one.
Yeah. Mercedes didn't really have a seat at that table last time around.
Right. So are they taking it? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think they came out. They're obviously the product's actually shipping to customers now, whereas the other ones are all just concepts, obviously. So they're not going to be on the road for probably 3 or 4 years. But it's interesting. It's it's curious to see who goes full electric. Ferrari has stated that they're going to be the last holdout. They're going to be putting V12s and things long after they're probably allowed to.
Yeah.
But they also have the benefit of them and McLaren. They make small runs of cars that they can afford to do.
Yeah.
Like Mercedes, I can only imagine what the boardroom meetings were to get approval on building this car that they're surely losing money on.
Yeah, I mean, that car is just ridiculous.
Not to mention it's supposed to come out 5 years ago. I mean, the motor and the hybrid drivetrains from the 2015 car, it was supposed to be out 2018. Obviously, COVID didn't help, but they also couldn't figure out the car, so.
Stay tuned. We might be having access to 1 or even 2.
Yeah, possibly 2 of those here in Saratoga.
Incredible.
It's maybe as early as this fall.
No.
Which would be interesting. I got a slight update the other day when talking to somebody. So we'll see. Car, of course, is not road legal here in the United States, which is a fun way to do it.
Figure it out. Luckily, we have a Steve Jobs thing.
Yeah.
All right. With that, we're going to take a short break for a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back.
So this episode is sponsored by our good friends over at Death Wish. You saw a great commercial produced by Zach. If you didn't, because he forgot to do it. But either way, here's our good friends at Death Wish, our fellow Saratogians here, makers and purveyors of some of the finest coffee, dare I say the finest coffee, I or any human being has ever had.
Definitely the strongest.
Definitely the strongest. And I can legally stand behind that and saying there is no better coffee. So thank you, Death Wish.
So we kind of left off talking about Porsche.
Yep.
There's some events that go on that definitely include Porsches, but there's one that I think everyone would agree is the Porsche event.
Yeah.
And
the finest of Luftgekühlt. Luftgekühlt, or air-cooled in German, is a celebration of the air-cooled Porsches, right? It's an event that's been going on. I think this is the 8th or 9th year now.
I think it was 8th, next one's 9th.
Yeah.
I don't know, I just saw an ad or something, but around that.
And it's a celebration of the air-cooled Porsches. So it's a really fancy car show with really cool cars, but it's the reason that it makes it so nice is that it's put on by, it's put on by 2 very notable people in the Porsche world. Patrick Long, who's a factory Porsche driver and all-around really cool dude, and Jeff Swart, who is the OG cool dude and super famous photographer, and just, these 2 guys come together. Zwart is the kind of the creative director of the event, if you will, and it's unlike any other car show. Because it's always in a very scenic and picturesque location that's really unique. It's not just like a field or a golf course or something like that.
It's more, for lack of a better word, artistic.
It is
artistic choice. It's not just what was available.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, they don't just the Concord thing is at golf courses, and that's nice and everything. Zach just quit the podcast live. You guys are catching it.
Well, I was gonna overlay it. You always gotta make sure you're recording.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah.
Don't flip the screen.
Oh yeah, that's so tricky.
We're still figuring out how to do podcasts.
This will be a quick cut.
here.
We'll find a quick cut there somewhere.
But maybe we'll leave it in. It's fun. It was only 30 seconds, and I totally ruined your train of thought.
No, it's all good.
But
so it's
special.
It is. It's a very special event. Yeah, Jeff Swart is the creative director of the event, and they find really, really picturesque locations that are not the common place you normally have a car show. A lot of concours and events are at golf courses or polo grounds, something like that, which is really cool. It's a fun thing to see. The cars are kind of just lined up and you walk around and look at them. They kind of wanted to do the anti-golf course car show, so they picked like timber yards, and they've picked not Planet Hollywood. What's it like? Studio? What's it called? Universal Studios, and like cool places like that where you wouldn't expect to have a car show. This most recent one was at Mare Island outside of San Francisco. I was lucky enough to attend it this year, which was a bucket list item for me.
Not only attend, but be kind of involved with it, right?
We were, yeah. We were out there to promote a book I worked on last year that happens to do a lot with Porsches. This is the book here. It's called Air and Water, and it is a collection that we did a couple years ago with a good friend of ours, Stephen Harris. He is one of the biggest collectors and best collectors of Porsches in the country. And he we got to do a really great book for him, and we went out there to promote the book. The reason we went out there specifically was for the first time ever at a Luftgekocht event, they had a second event the next day. It's usually only one day. The second day was called Air and Water, as it turns out. So it felt right for us to be there to promote the book that shares the name. But it was cool because they concluded a lot of the water-cooled cars, obviously from the 996 up in Porsche's world, which is 1999 and newer. It's all water-cooled now, so that's obviously a huge demographic of Porsche fans who still want to participate. And it was cool to see both events. Got to see lots of good friends, some unbelievable cars, some of the finest there. And
did you have a favorite?
That's tough. Saturday, the main show, there was a lot of vintage race cars there, a lot of vintage like 908s and stuff like that. Some of those are really gorgeous. One of my favorites was on the second day with the water-cooled stuff. That's really tough. Actually, I didn't really think about that. There's some really good ones I liked.
I hate to be cliche, but I assume it's like picking a favorite child.
It is. It definitely is, because I love them all. Our friend Stephen Harris, who the book shows off his collection, he was there. He brought a couple cars. And they, of course, were my favorites, I think, because I've gotten to drive a lot of those cars, and I know them pretty personally. The one he brought his 356 off-road endurance car that he had built about 20 years ago.
I love that thing.
They positioned it up on some rocks and stuff like that.
Peking the Paris.
Yeah,
right?
Peking the Paris car, which was super cool. Harris Wart right there in the video, which is cool. They had, and then on the second day for the water-cooled stuff, he brought out his 997 GT3 4-liter, which is like the car that everyone loves. And his is in paint to sample chartreuse, which is super cool. And they also brought out his 996 GT3 RS with the red wheels, which was a cool car. One of the best, so a lot of vintage race cars, which were super, super cool. The Hoonigan's Hoonapegasus was there. Obviously, Ken Block passing away earlier this year. It was really nice for them to have that car on display. They had it in this giant, unbelievably, it's a naval yard, Mare Island, right? So these, that's that right there. 908, that thing is sick. Having that car in was essentially a warehouse where they would build a battleship. And there's just this unbelievable car is parked in the middle, made for some great photography. And that's the whole point of it. It's really set up. It's sponsored by Leica, Jeff Zwart being one of the most iconic automotive photographers of all time. It was really great. Everything's very deliberately placed. The cars aren't just randomly skewed about. He goes through and very specifically places the vehicles where he knows people can come and take an Instagram photo or something like that, which is really cool. So as someone who is very much an amateur photographer, I killed my phone by 12 p.m. both days, just going through and taking photos. I really did. I lost Stephen Harris for about 3 hours because my phone died, and I had to figure out how to charge my phone in a naval yard.
We got to figure out how to get a museum Leica.
Leica, if you're watching, which we know you are, slide in the DMs. We'll take anything. We'll take anything.
This can be the Leica curated
museum
we
love Death Wish, but you know what? We're not beholden to anybody, But no, so it was a really great event. I really enjoyed it. Got to again see some unbelievable cars, some great people. Got to push the book a little bit. It was really fun.
So you mentioned the event space. The whole point of it was they kind of go together, the cars and the space, everything's specifically put. I think this might have inspired you to do something similar, so this kind of a good transition of what the museum's doing.
Exactly. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That was the segue that I was thinking of as I was talking about it, and then I forgot it. I'm glad you brought it up. One of us.
This works.
It worked out. It's a good team. It's a good team. Right. So it is. And I'm directly inspired by an event we're doing called the Curated Car Show. So if you're not familiar with what Curated is, quick little backstory. Curated's kind of like a sub-brand of the museum that we work with.
Yeah.
More of like a lifestyle, creative arm of everything. Yeah. So it focuses more on, we can talk about watches. We can talk about Lake Como and the finer things in life. A nice red.
The concours of
exactly. Yeah. So it's really nice. Yeah, it's a nice place that maybe wouldn't fit necessarily with our museum. It's something we do on the side in more of the culture aspect of it. So that's where we get the Curated magazine, which is issue 2 is due as soon as I finish it.
It's gonna be.
It's only a year
really
late.
good.
It's gonna be so worth the wait.
Yeah.
So, curated obviously is this podcast. There's a separate Instagram channel, so that's go follow if you don't already. Zach will bug you every time he sees you until you do.
Yes.
And of course, this car show, which is the first time the museum's ever done something like this. It's the first time I've ever put on my own little mini kind of invite only, if you will. The event itself is open to the public, but the cars in the car show are, for lack of a better term, being curated by me. And I'm going out of my way and calling in a lot of favors to a lot of friends with a lot of nice cars to try to make this happen, because I really do want to make it really special. It's going to be very deliberately placed. We're doing it here at the museum, but if you don't know, the museum is in the middle of a 30 million square foot state park. Right. So it's a really beautiful place. It's very scenic with trees and what have you. You
said last night, you brought to my attention that the building's going to be coming up on a 90-year anniversary.
It's coming up, we're at like 87 or something like that right now. I forget the exact math,
so
but it's
old building, kind of the same, vibe as the, old shipyard kind of deal, brick, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But things are going to be kind of placed around the building in some kind of adjacent parking lots. It might trickle inside a little bit. We're not sure yet. Depends how many cars we get. And we're doing it, normally our car shows are 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. This one's actually 6 to 9 at night. Mm-hmm. So we're going to get that nice dusk golden hour going on for you photographers. It's going to look really nice. Obviously, we have some food and drink, which will be really fun too. Just trying to do something different, kind of raise the bar a little bit. I can't say which cars are coming yet, but there are a couple that I have confirmed already. Oh, see, I want to leak information, and now the police are coming. That's what I get.
Hopefully the iPhone recorder is good enough,
that,
but we'll
yeah,
see.
That was...
Those rowdy TLC fans are already...
yeah, it's going to be quite the night here in Saratoga.
I'm excited.
With some really cool cars coming, so we're excited.
I'm fortunate enough to know the potential, and my lord, it is going to be incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
So we're excited. We have a couple other big events coming up in the museum, of course, too, this summer. Mm-hmm. We're filming this in mid-June. I'm assuming it's going to go out in the next few days or so. But definitely check out our website. Zach can overlay some other upcoming events on the screen right now.
I guess you're not seeing the hands.
No.
So right now we're just talking while
That's fair.
Stuff's being overlaid.
Wait for the overlay to go off.
And now?
Hands. Nice. So some upcoming events coming to the museum that are going to be really good. As always, you can go to our website, saratogaautomuseum.org, to find our event calendar. If you're looking to book an event with us at the museum, both indoors and outdoors, definitely let us know. 2023 is pretty much booked up, but still get your 2024 events in now. The Bond in Motion exhibit, of course, is still going on. It's going on until the end of the year now.
Yep.
So plenty of time to come see that if you haven't already. Anything else, Zach? What do you got?
I think maybe if you don't know by now, I hate to say the other cliche thing, if you've been living under a rock, do you want to give like a brief explanation of Bond in Motion? Oh, sure. Yeah. So it is a collection of officially licensed and screen-used vehicles from the Bond franchise. So the Eon Productions, the company that makes all the Bond films, just celebrated their 60th anniversary last year. And in doing so, we kind of put together a collection of a bunch of some really iconic vehicles from just about every film, definitely every Bond. Everything from, of course, your Aston Martin DB5 and some of your more modern Astons to a tuk-tuk and a submarine. So there's kind of a little bit of everything. If you're a big Bond fan, you're going to see some cars that you grew up with and enjoyed. If you're the casual Bond fan, you're going to see some really interesting vehicles and some stunt cars and stuff. And if you're not into cars or Bond at all, they're just cool to look at, man. It's something to do. So that's what's so great about this exhibit. The cars you got to choose, I think you covered every Bond, almost every movie.
Just about every movie, yeah.
And everything from Sean Connery to Daniel Craig.
Yeah. Yeah, we're really excited to have it. It was a big get for us. We're on the smaller side of museums as far as car museums go in the country. So we were competing, going head-to-head with some of the big boys to get this, and it worked out for us. So show the support to the museum, show my bosses that I know what I'm doing by bringing these exhibits in, so come in. We love a good 5-star review. My last name is spelled STRUSS, just in case you want to leave that in there. His last name's way harder to spell. So
yeah, don't bother.
Yeah. So we're really excited. We're already planning next year's exhibits. I'm deep into those already. Can't talk about those yet, but We'll probably leak that information on this podcast to get people to watch it.
Not that it relates anything with that. We got a couple new cars in.
We did, yeah. So the exhibit upstairs is changing around as always too. We always like to kind of bring some new, fresh faces in to get people to want to come back and see stuff, or for your first time visiting, some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
We have a Ferrari 250 TR60 here that was just incredibly generously donated to the museum. So it's now part of our personal private collection, which we're super excited about.
Yeah,
it's
incredible car.
If you know what a TR60 or a Ferrari TR is, there's only 39 of them in the world, and they're one of the rarest and most expensive cars ever. Ours is kind of an asterisk TR. You come see it, read the label, you'll get it. But it's a gorgeous car. It's something we plan to take out to events.
Oh yeah,
which would be really fun and exciting too.
This is cool now because we have a car that has that prestige that we can take to more events and kind of get more involved with, the general car landscape, especially at least in the Northeast here.
Exactly, yeah. So that's something we hope to bring out to a bunch of different concours. We might bring it to the Audrain if they invite us. Donald, what's up? You got my email, man. We talked. Send me that email.
I have your business card.
Yeah, we talked before. We're good.
We exchanged.
I saw it. We talked to Amelia about it. We also just got in this past week.
Yes.
The 1962 Volkswagen microbus. But it's not just any microbus. No. It is what is known as the light bus. And it's famous because it is the original Woodstock bus.
Yeah.
Right? That was the one that was on the cover of Rolling Stone, the famous Associated Press article and photos of the car. It really kicked off, it really gave an identity to the culture of the time in the 60s at Woodstock and stuff,
Yeah.
The bus was painted for a band called Light that attended Woodstock. They lied about the vehicle being in an art show to get into the show with the bus, which is pretty funny. And they obviously lived and slept at it for a couple days, and it made its rounds in all the newspapers around the country and everything. That bus was sadly lost to the sands of time, but as the anniversary of Woodstock came up a couple years ago, the original painter of the bus went on this whole crazy nationwide, worldwide search to find the bus. Couldn't come up with it, but Volkswagen got involved and helped them recreate the bus, which is super cool. So it's painted by the original painter. It's the same exact paint job. So it's really cool. We're excited to have that here at the museum. It's going to be here for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So come check that out. Conveniently, we're only about less than 2 hours from Woodstock. So if you're coming to visit, you can do a little 1-2, see the bus, go to Woodstock, vice versa, all good times. And we have a couple other cars coming in later this fall, which we'll talk about once we get those locked in. But
yeah, and then I think that covers cars and attractions. The other thing is we have our simulator getting built painstakingly. I've taken that job head on, and my gosh. I think I've said this a million times already, but I will never take an IKEA table for granted again. I mean, every bolt is just a pain.
Yeah, but just remember, keep this in your vision.
This is what will be in the hands of members only. So here is our promise to our members for creating more incentives. This will be a members only thing. So if you're not a member yet and you want a legit ride in a legit simulator.
It's real, 3-axis motion simulator. All the game, Assetto Corsa, Competizione, all the good sims and that kind of stuff. If you want to do it just for fun, just to drive, that's an option. You can do that. If you actually want to log hours and stuff like that, you can do that too. We're of course going to have a leaderboard, some fun competition and events to get people to come in here. And like Zach said, it is a members only thing. Not only to incentivize our current members and new members, but this thing's real expensive.
Yeah.
It's real fragile. And as much as we would love to have...
What was the total on the
it was a lot.
The invoice?
It was a lot.
And we're lucky to get it because of a grant.
Yeah,
and this is an educational tool.
Exactly.
So that's why, we'd love to open it to the public, but...
We need to preserve its
already going to get a lot of use from us. So.
Yeah, exactly. So we just don't want to go, getting broken or messed up or something like that. We're so fortunate to have that grant to pay for this and to offer this to our community. We want to make sure that it's going to be here for a while. So look out for that. There might even be some new member levels just for the simulator. So if you're not looking to become a full-time member, you just want to have a couple hours per week or whatever to come in and do it, all good. We're looking to do that too. So
yeah.
But we're excited for that. the room that the simulator's in.
Yeah, it's going to be
is awesome. A whole new space for us, which is cool. We repurposed a small little gallery downstairs, and I made a lot of focus on racing and kind of historic races, both locally to us here in upstate New York, which there's a ton, which is really cool. And then some more international renowned stuff. It's going to rotate a lot more. We're really trying to keep the museum fresh as much as we can.
Yep.
We don't want to become, as one of our board members once said, the old movie theater playing the same movie over and over again. We constantly want reasons to come back and visit. So we're trying. We're doing it.
I think that
does it. It's perfect timing because I think Shaggy's about to start sound checking right now. So
we're gonna go see if we can.
We're gonna go watch Shaggy sound check. So thanks everyone for watching. He's Zach. I'm Steve. Just to come by the museum, support your local museum, support your local car show. Do your best. SaratogaAutomuseum.com. Follow us on social media, Saratoga Auto Museum.
Same, yep. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
All the places.
And, of course, where you're watching this, YouTube.
Do the thing that all the other people tell you to do.
Subscribe, like, and comment.
And the bell
for more. And genuinely, please, if you have any questions, comments, if there's something you guys want us to talk about more, we can take the camera with us into a car, stuff like that.
That's true.
Just let us know what you guys want to see.
And speaking of that, you forgot to mention it, but the next episode is going to be on the road.
Oh, yes.
I got to go to San Francisco to go to Luftgekühlt. Zach, where are you going next week?
I'm just getting chills thinking about it. I get the opportunity to go to the Pikes Peak Hill Climb, the 101st. Considered one of the world's most dangerous races. Mm-hmm. A fun fact about that is typically the road that they take will take the average tourist, 3 hours to get to the top. It takes these cars around 10 minutes.
Yeah.
No guardrails. Nothing of the sort. So hopefully nothing bad happens.
Yeah, we don't wish bad things, but this track, the hill climb, does have a history of not everyone who starts out the weekend makes it to the end of the weekend. Not that that's an incentive, but
it's going to be exciting. So I'm going to try to take you guys along for that. We're doing it with our friend Kempis from Rap Factory. So he actually started the whole idea of it. You'll probably see Kempis and me talking about our day, and there'll be some vlogs and stuff as well.
Awesome. Yes, make sure you follow us and everything. And tell your friends about the podcast. Otherwise, we're just sitting here talking to ourselves on the internet.
Which we'll gladly do.
We have been. So.
We just decided to do a podcast. We're like, let's film it. All right.
Good deal.
Cool.
All right, next time.
Thanks, guys.